The encounter. Captain Alina Reyes stood at the observation deck of the Odysseus, humanity's greatest achievement in space travel. The massive generation ship stretched 5 kilometers from bow to stern, housing over 12,000 souls who had known no other home for the past 83 years. Alina was third generation, born among the stars, never having felt the pull of Earth's gravity or breathed its air. To her, the endless void wasn't something to fear. It was simply home. "Captain, you should see this." First Officer Marcus Chen's voice carried a note of excitement that broke Alina's contemplation. She turned from the expansive viewport that showcased the swirling nebula they were passing. "What have you found, Marcus?" He held out a data tablet displaying energy readings Alina had never seen before. Long-range sensors picked this up from the HD 85512 system. "The pattern is too regular to be natural." Alina studied the oscillating waves on the screen, her heart quickening. Humanity had ventured into space with one primary mission: to find other intelligent life. After centuries of searching, could this finally be it? "Have Dr. Kagawa analyze these readings immediately," she ordered, "and alter our course. I want to be within closer scanning range within 3 days." The news spread through the Odysseus like wildfire. For generations, the inhabitants had lived with the possibility that they might never encounter another intelligent species. Now that possibility seemed to be shrinking by the hour. 3 days later, Alina sat in the ship's command center, surrounded by her senior staff and department heads. The atmosphere was electric with anticipation. "The signals are definitely artificial," announced Dr. Amara Kagawa, head of xenobiology. Her dark eyes sparkled with excitement behind wire-rimmed glasses, "and they're changing in response to our approach. They know we're here." Alina felt a chill run down her spine. "Are they communication attempts?" "We believe so," replied Communications Director Feng. "The patterns follow mathematical progressions, first prime numbers, then what appears to be geometric representations. It's as if they're establishing a baseline for more complex communication." Security Chief Russo frowned. "Or they're simply gathering data on us before they decide whether we're a threat." "Either way," Alina said, "we need to respond." Director Feng, "Prepare a message using similar mathematical sequences. Let's show them we understand and want to communicate." Over the next several weeks, the exchange of signals grew more complex. The Odysseus moved closer to the HD 85512 system, and the alien signals became clearer. What emerged was both fascinating and perplexing. "They don't seem to be planetary-based," Dr. Kagawa explained during a briefing. "The signals originate from the space between the system's planets. It's as if they exist in the void itself." Alina leaned forward. "Are you suggesting they live in space, without ships or habitats?" "That's exactly what I'm suggesting," Kagawa nodded. "We're detecting vast energy fields stretching between planets. These could be their equivalent of cities or transportation networks." The revelation shifted everyone's thinking. Humanity had always imagined aliens as biological entities requiring atmospheres, gravity, and protection from radiation. These beings seemed to defy those assumptions entirely. As the Odysseus entered the outer reaches of the HD 85512 system, they began receiving images, or what appeared to be images. Luminous, shifting patterns that the ship's computers struggled to interpret. "I believe they're showing us themselves," Feng said, displaying one such pattern on the main screen. It resembled a web of light with pulsing nodes. "And this," he continued, switching to another image, "might be a representation of our ship." Alina studied the crude but recognizable outline of the Odysseus. "They're inviting us deeper into their system," she concluded, setting up a meeting point. The decision to accept this invitation sparked intense debate among the ship's council. Some, like Chief Russo, advocated extreme caution. Others argued that this was their entire mission's purpose. "We came all this way to make contact," Alina reminded them. "We can't turn back now just because what we found isn't what we expected." The council ultimately voted to proceed, but with precautions. They would send a smaller vessel first, a shuttle equipped with enhanced sensors, and a team of specialists. Elena insisted on leading the contact team herself, despite objections. A captain's place is on her ship, Russo argued. Not this time, Elena countered. This is the most significant moment in human history since we left Earth. I won't experience it through second-hand reports. The shuttle departed 3 days later with Elena, Dr. Kagawa, Director Feng, and a small security team. As they ventured toward the designated coordinates, they'd witnessed firsthand the alien structures. Vast webs of luminous energy stretching across thousands of kilometers of space. It's beautiful, Kagawa whispered as they passed close to one strand that pulsed with bluish light. They're not just living in space. They've transformed it. The Rendezvous Point was a region of space marked by a concentration of these energy strands, forming what looked like a spherical chamber. As the shuttle approached, portions of the energy field shifted, creating what appeared to be an opening. They're inviting us in, Feng observed. Elena took a deep breath. Take us through, pilot. Slowly. The shuttle eased through the opening into a space unlike anything humans had ever experienced. The interior of the sphere was alive with swirling patterns of light. Blues, purples, and colors Elena had no names for. There was no solid surface, no obvious technology as humans understood it, just energy in constant, beautiful motion. Life support systems functioning normally, reported the pilot. Whatever this field is, it's not interfering with our ship. Can we communicate with them from here? Elena asked Feng. Before he could answer, the energy patterns around them intensified, coalescing into 3 distinct forms that hovered before their viewport. Each was roughly 2 meters in diameter, pulsing with internal light. They're showing themselves to us, Kagawa breathed. Feng worked frantically at his console. I'm getting readings. These patterns might be language. I'm running them through our translation algorithms. One of the light forms approached the shuttle, extending what looked like a tendril of energy that stopped just short of touching their hull. Captain, warned the security officer, her hand moving instinctively to her sidearm. Stand down, Elena ordered. They're curious, not threatening. Feng's console beeped. I've got something. Very basic translation, but it's a start. A series of sounds emerged from the speakers, not words exactly, but modulated tones that somehow conveyed meaning. You beings solid, we beings light, long time searching, finding others. Elena felt tears spring to her eyes. First contact. After generations of searching, humanity had found another intelligence among the stars. She motioned to Feng to activate the response system they'd prepared. Tell them we too have searched long for others. We come in peace and friendship. The translation went out as similar tones and light patterns displayed on their external projectors. The 3 energy beings pulsed rapidly, their colors shifting through spectrums. Different form, same seeking. Exchange knowledge. Yes, Elena responded immediately. We wish to exchange knowledge. What followed was a careful, methodical sharing of basic concepts. The beings, who communicated that they called themselves something that translated roughly as the flowing, seemed fascinated by the physical nature of humans and their ship. After several hours of this exchange, Elena felt they had established enough of a foundation to move forward. We would like to bring our main vessel closer to continue our discussions, she told them. The response was immediate and unexpected. The 3 beings flared brightly, their colors turning sharp and jarring. The entire sphere around them pulsed with what Elena could only interpret as alarm. Large vessel contains danger. Death-making core. Threat to flowing. The security officer tensed again. Captain, their energy readings are spiking. I think they're hostile. Elena raised a hand for calm, though her own heart was racing. There's a misunderstanding. Our ship is no threat to you. But the beings were already withdrawing, the sphere around them contracting. Others coming. Protect the flowing. Your vessel must leave. Outside their shuttle, The vast network of energy strands was changing, condensing, moving toward them with purpose. And beyond, on the edge of their sensors, more of these beings were approaching. Dozens, perhaps hundreds. "Captain," the pilot called urgently. "The Odysseus is reporting multiple energy signatures converging on their position. They're being surrounded." Elena realized with a sinking feeling that the first contact was spiraling into a confrontation. Somehow, the Flowing saw their ship as a threat. But why? Then it hit her. "The fusion reactors," she said. "They're beings of energy. Our reactors must look like weapons to them." The shuttle lurched as invisible forces began pushing it back toward the exit of the sphere. "Leave now. No return." "Captain," the pilot warned, "they're forcing us out. And the Odysseus is reporting the entities are forming some kind of containment field around them." Elena gripped her seat as the shuttle was propelled out of the sphere. Their first contact was turning into a potential interstellar incident, with thousands of lives at stake. "Get us back to the ship," she ordered. "And tell Acting Captain Chen to power down all non-essential systems. We need to appear as non-threatening as possible until we can fix this misunderstanding." As their shuttle raced back toward the Odysseus, Elena watched the beautiful energy networks of the Flowing transform into what could only be described as defensive formations. Humanity's first encounter with alien life was not going as anyone had imagined. But she wasn't about to let it end in conflict. There had to be a way to make them understand. There had to be. Understanding across the stars. The Odysseus floated in space, encircled by pulsing entities of pure energy. Most of its systems had been powered down on Captain Reyes' orders, leaving only life support and essential functions operating at minimal capacity. On the bridge, Acting Captain Marcus Chen monitored the tense situation as Elena's shuttle approached. "Status report," Elena demanded as she strode onto the bridge minutes after docking. "They haven't made any aggressive moves," Marcus reported, "but they've formed a complete containment field around us. We can't move without risking contact with their energy barriers." Elena surveyed the tactical display. At least 200 of the energy beings, the Flowing, had surrounded the Odysseus, their normally beautiful patterns now sharp and threatening. "Any communication attempts?" she asked. Communications Director Feng, who had returned with her, shook his head. "They're broadcasting warnings, but nothing more substantial. They keep referring to our death core and telling us to deactivate it." Security Chief Russo approached. "Captain, I've prepared response teams in case they attempt to board." "We can." "No," Elena cut him off firmly. "This is a misunderstanding, not an attack. They fear us as much as we fear them." Dr. Kagawa, who had been analyzing the sensor data, looked up. "Captain, I believe I understand what's happening. The Flowing are essentially energy beings. Our fusion reactors, which contain and manipulate massive energy, must appear to them as weapons of immense destructive potential. Like someone pointing a loaded gun," Elena murmured. "Exactly," Kagawa nodded. "And there's something else. From their communications, I don't think they understand that we are many individual entities within one vessel. They may perceive the Odysseus as a single enormous being." Elena paced the bridge, her mind racing. 12,000 lives depended on her finding a solution to this cultural and perceptual chasm. Conventional diplomatic approaches wouldn't work when the basic assumptions about life itself were so different. She stopped suddenly. "Dr. Kagawa, you said they don't understand we're many individuals inside one structure." "That's my theory, yes." "Then we need to show them." Elena turned to Feng. "Open a ship-wide channel." When he nodded, she addressed the entire crew. "This is Captain Reyes. As you know, we are surrounded by the alien entities we've encountered. There's been a misunderstanding that threatens to escalate into conflict. I'm asking for 20 volunteers to join me outside the ship." Russo stepped forward in alarm. "Captain, you can't be serious. Exposing our people to what, Chief?" "Space. We have EVA suits. To the aliens? They haven't harmed us yet. Despite believing we're a threat, Elena's voice was firm. We need to show them what humanity truly is. Not a single entity, but many individuals working together. Within minutes, more than 100 crew members have volunteered. Elena selected 19, representing different departments, ages, and backgrounds. As they prepared in the airlock, donning their EVA suits, she outlined her plan. We'll form a circle outside the ship. Each of us will project holographic images of Earth, our families, our art, our music, anything that shows our individuality and our collaborative nature. We need them to understand that we're not a single threatening entity, but thousands of beings working together. The spacewalk was unlike any in human history. Elena led her team through the airlock and out into the void, where they were immediately surrounded by the pulsing, shifting forms of the flowing. The aliens maintained their distance, but watched with what Elena interpreted as wary curiosity. The humans spread out in a wide circle around one section of the Odysseus, each activating holographic projectors attached to their suits. The space around the ship bloomed with images, Earth's mountains and oceans, human faces laughing and crying, dancers performing, scientists working together, children playing. Elena activated her communication system, broadcasting in the tonal language they had begun to establish with the flowing. We many individuals, together but separate, ship our home, not weapon. For several tense minutes, there was no response. Then 3 of the energy beings approached, moving cautiously through the human circle. They pulsed with changing colors as they observed the holographic displays. Many minds, inside one shell. Came the response finally. Yes, Elena confirmed. Many minds, many hearts. One ship. The 3 entities conferred, their energy patterns interweaving in complex ways. Then one approached Elena directly, hovering just meters from her EVA suit. Show inside. See many. Elena understood. You want to see inside our ship, to see that we are many. Yes. She looked back at the Odysseus, considering the risk. Then she made her decision. I will take one of you inside, to see. Despite Russo's vehement objections, Elena escorted a single entity of the flowing, a being composed of pure energy, into the Odysseus through a specially prepared airlock. The being contracted itself into a smaller form, pulsing with colors that their rudimentary translation suggested indicated anxiety or alertness. Elena guided the entity through the ship's main thoroughfare, where hundreds of crew members had gathered. They stood respectfully back, watching in awe as the luminous being passed by. So many, the entity communicated. Different shapes, different patterns, all in great shell. Yes, Elena confirmed. We live together. We work together. But we are all separate beings. The tour continued to engineering, where Elena had ordered the main reactor powered down to its lowest operational level. She explained, as simply as the translation would allow, how the reactor worked, not as a weapon, but as a power source that enabled their life support systems. Energy containment. Not for harming. Not for harming. Elena agreed. For living. For traveling between stars. When they returned to the airlock, the entity paused, its colors shifting to softer hues. Misunderstanding occurred. Different existence forms. Different perception. Yes, Elena said, but we can learn from each other despite our differences. When they returned to space, the entity rejoined its companions. The 3 conferred again, their energy patterns interweaving rapidly. Then they broadcast to all. Humans complex. Not threat. Different, but seeking same. The containment field around the Odysseus dissolved as the flowing retreated to a respectful distance. The immediate crisis had passed, but the challenge of communication remained. Over the following weeks, a remarkable exchange unfolded. The flowing created a specialized interface zone, a region of space where their energy forms could safely interact with humans in EVA suits or small shuttles. Scientists, artists, philosophers, and everyday crew members took turns visiting this neutral zone, to share aspects of human culture and learn about the flowing. They discovered that the flowing experienced time differently, perceiving it as fluid rather than linear. Their consciousness was both individual and collective, each energy being maintained its own identity, but could temporarily merge with others to share experiences directly. The breakthrough in mutual understanding came not through science, but through art. A human musician brought a specially designed instrument into the interface zone, one that produced both sound and light. As she played, the flowing responded, creating harmonizing patterns of energy that complemented the music. Together, they created a symphony that transcended the limitations of their respective biologies. 3 months after first contact, Alina stood in the observation deck of the Odysseus, watching as human shuttles moved carefully through the vast energy networks of the flowing. Engineers from both species were collaborating on a revolutionary propulsion system that utilized principles from the flowing's natural movement through space. Xenobiologists were learning how beings of pure energy could evolve intelligence and culture. Philosophers debated the nature of consciousness with entities whose entire existence challenged human definitions of life. First Officer Marcus Chen joined her at the viewport. "The Council of Earth has responded to our reports," he said. "They're sending a diplomatic mission. Should arrive within 6 months." Alina nodded, watching a shuttle navigate through a particularly beautiful section of the flowing's energy network. "They'll find a very different situation than what we described in our first messages." "You took an enormous risk," Marcus said quietly, "walking into space, bringing one of them aboard." "Sometimes understanding requires risk," she replied. "We spent generations searching for other intelligent life. When we found it, we almost destroyed the possibility of connection, because we couldn't see past our differences." A group of the flowing approached the viewport, their colors shifting in what they now recognized as a greeting pattern. Alina raised her hand in response, and they pulsed brighter before moving away to continue their endless dance through the void. "They've invited us to establish a permanent research outpost in their system," Alina continued, "and they're interested in sending some of their own to explore near our colonies. Not physically. They can't survive long away from their energy networks, but through a kind of remote presence they're developing with our engineers." "The beginning of a true exchange," Marcus observed. "More than that," Alina said. "The beginning of a transformation, for both our species." She thought about the generations of humans who had lived and died aboard the Odysseus, traveling between stars, holding on to the hope that humanity wasn't alone in the universe. They had imagined first contact in countless ways, but no one had imagined this. No one had prepared for intelligent life so fundamentally different from their own. Yet here they were, finding common ground across an almost unimaginable divide. Later that day, Alina joined a group in the interface zone for a different kind of exchange. The flowing had expressed curiosity about human storytelling. The concept of fictional narratives was apparently novel to them. In return, they offered to share their own form of history-keeping, a direct sensory experience of their collective memory. As Alina settled into the specially designed sensory chair, electrodes connecting to her neural pathways, she felt a momentary apprehension. The flowing had assured them the process was safe, a filtered, limited version of how they shared memories among themselves. "Ready for sharing?" asked the entity operating the interface. "Ready," Alina confirmed. What followed was unlike anything she had ever experienced. She found herself perceiving, not seeing, not hearing, but somehow directly experiencing the history of the flowing. Their evolution from simple energy patterns in the corona of their star to complex beings capable of manipulating the fundamental forces of the universe. Their slow expansion through their home system, developing their vast networks. Their centuries-long debate about whether other forms of intelligence could exist, and their eventual decision to send out signals searching for others. When the connection ended, Alina sat in silence, tears streaming down her face at the beauty and alienness of what she had witnessed. "Understanding achieved?" the entity asked, its colors pulsing with concern. "Yes," she whispered. "Understanding achieved." As she returned to the Odysseus, Elena reflected on how far they had come from that moment of crisis when first contact nearly became first conflict. The path forward would not be easy. Two species so fundamentally different would face countless more misunderstandings and challenges. But they had crossed the greatest divide, the recognition that despite their alien nature to each other, both sought connection, both valued knowledge, both wondered about their place in the cosmos. Humanity had found not only another intelligence among the stars, but also a new perspective on their own existence. They were not alone, and the universe was stranger and more wonderful than they had ever imagined. And that, Elena thought as she watched the flowing dance among the stars, was worth every risk, every challenge, every moment of fear and doubt. That was why they had come so far from home. To discover that home was bigger than they had ever dreamed.